It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, today I want to talk about the venture capital private equity roll-ups running around continuing to buy declining print revenue without a successful diversification strategy into broader services, mainly IT services that we hear everybody talking about. And folks, I'm going to continue to say that it's not very successful because here's the reality. None of those leaders, well, they never stand up on stage and share the success, share the numbers. I learned a long time ago that adjectives without math are probably bullshit. Adjectives without math are probably bullshit. You know, you can look online and you hear those leaders out there talking about how great, good, great, everything's so great all the time. And at the end of the day, they never really share the details of that greatness. Adjectives without math are usually bullshit. But folks, I believe that by the year 2028, print volumes in businesses will decline 40% from 2019's number. Hell, they're already at a 20% decline. So it's pretty probable that they could decline another 20% as more and more end users consume information behind glass. So I'm not going to argue about whether or not the decline is 40% by the year 2028. I think the argument for the channel needs to be this. What will the decline be? Is Ray right at 40% or will it be 30%? Folks, either way, it sucks. Okay? And we better have a strategy to get more revenue out of those businesses or it's going to be a disaster. And I believe in the next couple of years, we will see an absolute disaster coming out from one of these private equity groups or venture capital roll-ups. We're going to see a disaster. And when we see the first disaster, maybe that'll wake up the industry. Because right now, a lot of the talk in the industry, well, is adjectives without math, which are bullshit most of the time. But folks, let's look at this. 40% decline. If you're a $10 million dealership in the year 2019, half of your revenue was coming from hardware, half of your revenue was coming from print. That $10 million dealership was doing $416,666 a month in reoccurring services revenue on print if it averaged a penny a page. And that would be for all the services, all the parts, all the labor, right? You're collecting $416,000 a month. A 40% decline from that number means you're going to be collecting, you ready for this, my friends? You're going to be collecting $249,999 a month. That's $2 million less. So here's the simple math for you, okay? A 40% decline in output in those businesses where you have all this equipment will give you a 20% decline from top line revenue. But here's the sad part. That 20% decline from your top line revenue is where all the damn profit is. Because you don't make any profit in the hardware anyway. The profit's made in the services. A 40% decline in business print in our industry would make this $10 million dealer in a really, really bad position. It would put him in a terrible position. A terrible position. And it doesn't matter if this $10 million dealer spent the last few years running around buying up little dealers to add to the revenue pot. Because the decline is in the output. The decline is what the customers will buy. So even if you go out there and buy new customers, they're going to decline without additional services and without getting additional revenue besides print of those accounts. It's just simple math, folks. Here's what I want to ask everybody. Where the hell is the strategy talking about the decline? The strategy about the decline can't be to go buy more declining revenue. The strategy about the decline has to be a substitution of declining revenue. I know some of you are probably getting ready to say, Ray, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Let me tell you something. I think culture is the most overused word in our industry right now. Here's what I believe. You better have a culture to replace the declining revenue. You better have a culture built to replace declining revenue. You better have a culture built to be innovative, to challenge each other, not to pacify each other. You better have a culture that's not afraid to stand up and say, what the hell are we doing? You better have a culture that is not afraid to talk about the realities in fear that they have an over-optimistic, delusional leader. Ladies and gentlemen, you could have the greatest culture in the world, but without a strategy for the worst decline in the industry's history, guess what? Well, maybe you can all hang around at the playground and have a culture of just being friends because your business just fell off the cliff. So let me talk about this a little bit, and I put together this chart, and I want you all to think about this. We got to replace the declining print services revenue, and we have to focus on the profit of the new services, okay? We can't just go out and replace revenue. We have to replace profit. Print output has always been pretty profitable. It's made a whole lot of people wealthy. But at the end of the day, folks, it's evaporating quickly. And that new deliverable has to be profitable. If you just focus on the revenue, you're going to find yourself in trouble. You have to focus on how to do it profitably, and it's a completely different deliverable, but I'll get to that in a second. But what's your team's thinking? How are you addressing your team about your strategy to move into broader services? And then how often do you distract your team and send them back to where everybody's comfortable? I mean, think about it, folks. Think about it. You start out with a strategy, man, we're going to move upstream. We're going to sell IT the right way. We're going to sell fee-based assessments. We're going to go out there and do this exactly the same way we're supposed to do it, and we're going to be successful at it. We understand it. We're going to go nail it. And then those venture capitalists and those private equity folks get a little bit stressed out. And they say, look, it's taking too long to sell this IT stuff. Just go sell some printers. Go sell some copiers. What's the old saying? First part of the month, we sell all the solutions. The end of the month, we're slinging boxes. Folks, you better have a path. You better know the numbers. I think everybody in the team should know the numbers. Here's where our print revenue is. Here's where it is, and we want to pass that number quickly. We don't want to wait till it completely falls off the cliff and then pass it. That's easy. We need to pass that print revenue now before it drops another 20%. Wouldn't that make more sense? So, folks, here's the question I got to ask the roll-ups. Okay? It's a fair question. Where the hell's the success been in these things for the last 10 years? Seriously. You know, where's it been? There's only been one that I know of. Our friends over there at Dex sold to Staples and Sycamore. Home run. You know, I've asked this question. I'm going to ask it again. Do you honestly believe that Sycamore and Staples would buy Dex Imaging today? Like they did before this pandemic? Before the world all went to hell, before print dropped 20%, do you think they would have done it? And folks, the reality of it is we see Dex out there right now buying up dealers. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Because people tell me that all the time. Ray, you know, you're saying that it doesn't make any sense for dealers to go out there and buy up dealers, but Dex Imaging is doing it. Well, in the last 10 years, the only one that was successful is Dex Imaging. So that leads me to believe that Dex Imaging is probably on a path to be successful again. Time will tell. But they do have a proven track record. The rest of the private equity groups are pretty stale, pretty old, right? So where's the success? And like I said, adjectives without math are usually just bullshit. So let me look at this, folks, you know, and I want to talk about the synergy. I'm kind of looking online, and I wanted to, you know, understand a little bit about organizations that are in rapid declines that decide to diversify, and they have a myth about synergy. And I found this article, and this was written back in 2012. I want to read you something out of this article, and I want you to think about the print channel going out there and buying up IT services companies. I want you to just think about this. Money Watch commentary. One of the most common buzzwords in corporate America is synergy. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. 1 + 1 = 3. Two entities working together to achieve what neither can do independently. Sounds familiar, right? Let me read on. Whether it's a merger of two companies, a strategic partnership, or multiple product lines, synergy is always the goal but rarely achieved. Why is that? It's rarely achieved. Folks, the amount of private equity roll-ups that fail is a huge number. From what I could find online, it's like 2/3 of them go away, don't make it. This isn't always a home run. It's a calculated investment risk, okay? They don't all work out. And like I said, if you look at our industry over the last decade, where's the home run? Where's the home run in private equity, VC-backed roll-ups running around buying declining revenue? Where's the home run? Honestly, this is what this gentleman says. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it usually has something to do with human optimism, wishful thinking, or things just never turning out the way you planned. The cynical and jaded former executive who lives inside my head might say it's sometimes the result of a CEO who's either delusional, full of himself, or both. I thought that was interesting observation. Because, folks, you can listen to the print industry, some of these older executives out there, and their optimism is beyond belief, and it's based on nothing. It's delusional optimism. It's unsubstantiated rhetoric. It's adjectives without math. It's amazing. So, folks, I want you all to think about this, because here's my thinking about the synergies between print and IT. And I've said this before, but please let this sink in. Print sales is not IT sales. Product-centric is not service-centric. Okay? IT is about selling a service that may include products or not. Okay? It's about the servicing. And servicing profitably. It's about servicing with very expensive human capital and technology. It's not about a wrench, a diaper you lay on the floor to do a PM. Okay? So you got to really think about this. It's not the same at all. There's nothing common about it. Print companies' business processes are not IT services companies' processes. All these processes that you have in place to go out and deliver print into the marketplace have nothing to do with going out there and delivering IT successfully in the marketplace. I'm so sick of some of these nut job consultants telling dealers, well, you guys are really good at leasing and recurring revenue. Go nail it. Yeah, but we're really bad at understanding how to manage the different costs between human capital service technicians. We're really, really bad at trying to manage time against a serial number or a ticket or a contract. Folks, managing IT is not managing print. Delivering IT is not delivering print. Those synergies don't exist. They don't exist the way all of you optimistically believe they do. And I believe that optimism is based on pure delusion, especially after a decade of trying. So here's what I'm thinking. I want to do a little comparison between the roll-ups and the organic. And I think these differences highlight why the roll-ups or the VC-backed, private equity-backed are struggling so much. Roll-ups have a forced culture changes. Folks, it doesn't matter what you say or read in the newspaper, okay? When Company A buys Company B, Company A is in charge. And they're going to hope that they can get Company B to accept the culture. It's not going to go the other way, okay? Whoever writes the check is in charge. And you're forcing immediate cultures on organizations. And that's a struggle at best, and we all probably lived through those struggles. Okay, if you look over here at the organic, they got a stable culture. And even if the organic company is out there buying up other companies, you know what makes them different? The money's coming out of their own pocket. And they're more astute to the culture they're buying. Private equity, let's be honest. They're buying someone that wants to sell, and if they can make money off that purchase, they're going to do it. Organically grown companies that are out buying other companies are more astute to what they're buying, I assure you. Too many bosses, uncertain leadership, clearly defined leadership. Organically grown companies that are growing, either they're growing organically or they're out there, maybe they're adding other companies to their portfolio. Everybody knows who's in charge. It's clearly defined. Some of these roll-ups that I've talked about it before with all this autonomy and different names, it's just a fantasy. It's a fantasy that over the last decade really hasn't paid off, so maybe I'm right about it being a fantasy. Leaders come with the deal, both good and bad. So over here, these private equity roll-ups, you buy a company, the leaders just come with it, good or bad. You know what? When the organic people do it, leaders are developed and sought out, and leaders are evacuated quickly. A lot of these roll-ups, they pride themselves on the fact that you can come work with us and keep all your autonomy and keep your job. And at the end of the day, when you look at the organics growing, those organic dealers, when they're out there growing and buying up people, there's a lot of, well, let's just call it liquidation of leadership at the commencement of the deal. That's the way it works, okay? Synergies are myths in roll-ups. Over here in the organic, they have developed, proven processes. In other words, they're out there developing and improving their processes as they're going along, and when they add another company to the portfolio, that company adapts to those processes that are proven and deliverable. These roll-ups, you got all kinds of different deliverables going on, all kinds of different attitudes about how we're going into the market, all kinds of different leaders trying to figure out who's the better leader and who's not. Folks, it's a cluster. We all know it. Investment EBITDA for business goals over in the organic. They'll invest their EBITDA. They'll lower their EBITDA. It's coming out of their pocket. You know what? We're going to invest. We don't need to make so much money these next 5 years. Let's put this money back into the company and really grow it. And when that money comes out of their wallet, you know what? They're a whole lot more astute to what the hell's going on versus when it just comes out of this big fund. Okay? Here's the reality. They'll sacrifice business goals for EBITDA. Private equity, venture capital backed firms, they're going to sacrifice the business growth for EBITDA. If these roll-ups keep losing money, what do you think is going to happen? You think it's going to be about growing the business, bringing in smarter people, bringing in better technologies? Or do you think it's going to be a succession plan of cuts? Let's cut. Panic mode. What do we got to do? Not my money. The risk is spread. Over here in these roll-ups, it's not their money. The risk is spread. Over here, failure is more costly because it's self-funded. Folks, it's costly for an organic organization to go out there and mess up with its acquisitions. It's a whole lot more costly than a bunch of private equity folks just deciding one day, that was a bad investment, let's get out. Folks, I hope today's episode sparks you to really start asking more questions. And here's the other thing. When people start throwing out these adjectives all the time, make them start giving you some math with them. Because adjectives without math are usually deemed pure bullshit. Just something to think about, my friends, because we all know this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all.